Hey guys, today I'm going to go over a version of this question. CrossFit is killing your SEAL team dreams, or Special Forces dreams, or MARSOC, or whatever it might be, right? Even your law enforcement dreams. And I'm going to really lay this out because CrossFit as of itself has a tremendous value for that sport. And to go outside of its usefulness of that sport, you really erode its own purpose. And so in the same way, CrossFit is going to kill your baseball dreams, it's going to kill your football dreams, it's going to kill your swimming dreams, and the vice versa. Like, if I'm training as a football player authentically, that will in no way, shape, or form really enhance my training for CrossFit. And that's what I really say is, like, CrossFit has its real value in that sport, and specifically in a very small window of high intensity interval training. We'll go over that. And this is not, like, there's so much good about the CrossFit community. The community itself, it's trainings there every day, right? There's different levels of it, right? Where you can fully engage in trying to compete and try to get to the games, like legit, right? And then you have all those variations of layers of athletes and moms and dads and first and beginners and all these different levels that community of CrossFit is so good at. But what it doesn't do, what it will never do, is create Navy SEALs. Like, whoa, what about Jeff Bridges? Okay. I and Jeff Bridges are not the same in any way. To compare him to my tier 1 work would be an insult to me. To compare me against him and his CrossFit as an example would be an incredible insult to him. So this is not a 1 + 1 what is better. We're talking physiological adaptation, okay? And so we're going to read an email that's incredibly common. This is the most common email we get from people that get into and through selection. And it's got to change because in every single case, these people come back and go, oh, the stuff I did. And I'll read this here, okay. Hi, Jeff. My name is, I've been following you for a long time now. Your advice about the pipeline was a tremendous help to me while training for it and going through it. I'm a new guy on X Coast, and I'm contacting you wondering which one of your programs your offer would be best for me to follow to prepare during ULT and life in the teams. ULT is unit level training. And that means, like, after your schools and your workup, you get all your guys together and you go from big training evolution to evolution that checks off all those land warfare, diving, CQB blocks as a unit prior to deployment. So once the unit level training gets done, all those checks, like, hey, we're ready to deploy, let's get going. And that's what unit level training is. And then his was time in the teams, right. Because what we always say is what gets you to and through selection isn't going to keep you around, because selection and deselection are very different than life in the teams and ULT. And this is very perceptive by this fella, okay? I have a background in high volume CrossFit, which helped me prepare for BUD/S. And these are his words, not mine. In parentheses, I know it's gay. So just say I totally agree with him, and this is not a gender thing. It's just, these are his words and I want to be authentic to what he's writing. And since graduating from the pipeline, I've been doing the same old programs I did to get ready for BUD/S, and I've been questioning how efficacious it is, wondering why I'm doing a program to get me ready for selection pipeline when he's in the teams now, and the demands of the job are different. Boom, absolutely, right? So it's not a knock on the guy that he essentially did CrossFit and he was lucky and it got him prepared. But now you're seeing that there's two ways you get through BUD/S. Be as hard as woodpecker lips or be stupid. This guy is not stupid. So he's seeing these things, he's perceiving these things, he's feeling these things, and he's going, whoa, what gets you there won't keep you there. You betcha, okay. I'm the team now and demands of the job are different. So looking into your program, I was wondering which one you recommend to keep my cardio in check, right? As well as get the best shape you can be for that ULT, that unit level training. Awesome. This is the most common email we get. I make this very akin to really good seeking within faith and religion. Like, once you start seeking and you start reading the rights, you're like, wow, there's a lot of other stuff. You realize, like, I got a lot more stones to turn over to be that professional soldier, because BUD/S, be hard or be stupid, right? And that's it. That's the only people that get through. You're hard as hell and tough, or you're too dumb to know the difference. And that's what you get, okay? All right. I want to say this, and these are some of my notes I've kept in pertaining to where we're going, how we do this, and like where's the value, okay? Okay. And this is another big highlighting thing. So now we have a student that just graduated, right? He's been through BUDS very recently. He's been through SQT very recently. He's now checking into the teams. And what is no case, no one at BUDS is educated and writing program. They don't need to, that's BUDS. BUDS is the selection, so check. There's no one in BUDS. There's no one in pre-BUDS. There's no one in BUDS teaching you guys how to train properly, check. SQT, he got through SQT. You're not in the BUDS cadre, it's totally different cadre. Totally different schedules, totally it's more advanced training. What did they not get? They didn't have any coaching. They didn't have anyone talk about how they should train, how they should move, or how they should write programming. So now we're through BUDS and we're through SQT, and they still haven't been taught how to train properly. Now they're at the team. He's at the teams now. There's no one teaching at the teams how to do this stuff properly. So what are we doing, right? So that's the question is like, oh my God, like that is what I'm saying. You either really hard or really dumb, right? That's like, or you followed good programming and you're hard and smart, I guess, right? And so that's what we're seeing. We're seeing these guys with real effort. This dude clearly has put in world-class effort. And he got through selection. But now he's in the teams and going, wait a minute, these aren't 170-pound fucking BUD students. Holy shit, these are real operators, man. These got 220 pounds and they are moving like they're 170. How the fuck am I gonna keep up? That's what you're seeing, right? Okay, because training for physical prep is never going to happen for you in the teams. Maybe at the tier 1 side for sure. Like that's where I first and only time ever exposed to really good athletic trainers, physical therapists, PAs, strength coach, sports psychologists. Those are the tier 1 level and they're good. So there is such a disparate, like such a big difference between white side teams and tier 1, right? You're not gonna get it. You're not at all, okay? Just so you know, I'm not, I guess my background, I've been level 1 CrossFit certified since about 2009. I did it here in Virginia Beach at CrossFit Takeover. And at the time, it was funny because I would call them on, they were doing their math was wrong. I called them out on it. And it was funny because they said, no, we kind of have our own math for that. And my answer was, well, Newton's laws dictate that you just can't make up physics. Like, oh yeah. And then they started making like, you must have an exercise physiology degree. And I'm like, yep. And they started laughing, go, all right guys, if you have an exercise physiology degree, none of this pertains to you. And just ignore what he has to say because, you know, so they wouldn't let me address it offline. And in their test, the math was wrong. And during the test, I walked up to show that, hey, your math is wrong in this. And they didn't like that either. Somehow they still gave me the certification, but I'm not, that was my big, we're just making shit up as we go to sell an item. So I have absolutely no respect at all for CrossFit in that regard, for the people and the system in place. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the athletes and for the people and the coaches that authentically represent CrossFit better than the leadership. Because I've met fantastic CrossFit owners, CrossFit athletes, and so in the same way, we got to really understand that there's spectrums of CrossFit, just like there's spectrums of the SEAL teams. And I recognize that there's world-class athletes within CrossFit, and all this nonsense doesn't really impact them because they're so focused on being world-class in CrossFit, okay? Right? So that was my experience in CrossFit level 1 here, okay? The problem with CrossFit isn't CrossFit. CrossFit, in of its energy system, it's a single energy system, basically, development, right? Yes, you can get into some aerobic side, but it's purely strength, endurance. It's a very strength, like anaerobically based, like glycogen, right? Like that's very robust. That's what high intensity interval training is. And high intensity interval training is a very, very unique aspect because it develops that third energy system, that phosphocreatine energy system. We do power and speed. We do high intensity interval training, but we do it relative to the energy system demands and the movement patterns needed in the job. It's not a hopper. We don't randomize things. We don't, and that's the thing is like, here's the thing is randomized training does not, like, everyone's like, oh, you got to do CrossFit because it makes you ready all the time. No. That's a maladaptation, right? To be ready all the time, that's relative to your energy systems. Your energy systems, your reaction times, your rest, those things display, right, what you're supposed to manifest and do in the sport or in the job. And by randomizing, literally randomizing your rep sets and exercises, it goes against the energy system development. You cannot develop an energy system from random movements. They have to, like, hey, that's why we say you do your test. Hey, I need more strength, I need more endurance, I need more power and speed, I need more aerobic this. Well, those are energy system demands. And if you're doing something contrary to that energy system development, what do? You get maladapted, or you adapt the opposite way. We create compensations. We do all this work and we don't feel the improvement. Well, that's because you've plateaued and you're still trying to push through an energy system that's reached its limit of adaptation. And that's why we switch for a period of time, periodization, to another energy system, not to give that one up. We let that bear sleep, right? When you're working that high intensity interval optimally, think of it as a big grizzly bear, man. And you got to put that grizzly bear to hibernation for a little while and get into that strength, get in that power and speed. Why? Because when that bear wakes up, it's got to eat, right? And we have to give it that break, that pause. Why? Because that way we have that next season, we can hit it harder and harder each season, because the demands of our job, selection demands don't get any harder. They haven't gotten harder since the 60s. But the job overseas isn't getting less threatening, isn't getting less dangerous. What? That's just the nature of what war is. War doesn't get easier, okay? So that's the thing I was saying. There's my next page here, because there's a bit more. All right. Low technique, right? And that's where here's another big problem with CrossFit. Not with the athletes and not with the people that give CrossFit the respect it deserves every single day, hitting everything with high accuracy. Thing with the firearm, okay? Low technique plus high intensity plus high volume always yield 100% of the time into plateauing and injuries. That's the do we do CrossFit? No. But for periods of time, multiple times a year, we intensely do high intensity interval training to develop that energy system, in which CrossFit does very well, but they don't come off of it, right? It's the same thing as like if you're just doing hypertrophy all the time, you hit a plateau. If all you're doing is like, I'm lifting like a power lifter and lifting heavy all the time, which they don't, the good ones, like oh my God, like my son is like week after week, Dad last week, why am I hitting a plateau? It's like, well, because you're doing everything 5 of 5s. Well, yeah, but no, like you've got to shift your stimulus too, even as a 17-year-old, okay? And so that's what we're seeing. We don't want you to not be intense at times. You just got to plan it. We don't want you to add not add tons of volume. But there's a time for that in which technique doesn't suffer, right? And then if you're doing both bad technique and consistently intense and tons of volume, I know that's 3 things, but whoa, we shouldn't be surprised that we're hitting these plateaus really quickly. And when we're coming out of BUDS or special SFAS, the Q course, the long walk, whatever it might be, MARSOC selection, and you engage again with more high intense interval training coming through. That's why so many team guys get into SQT, get hurt chronically, never really recover, because they got out of BUDS, they went to SQT, and they started doing CrossFit. And you never give your energy systems, your bones, your tendons, every chance to heal, right? Okay. Again, with it, guys, we are, when you get through BUDS and 2 BUDS, you have just made the agreement that you are now a professional soldier. Your job, just like you're to learn breaching, I have to learn what to do and what not to do when I'm breaching a door. What happens when your gun jams? Tap, rack, bang, right? Or you transition. We have to have that an inherent response to that, okay? But how do we handle that tap, rack, bang better? It isn't adding an energy system development that is caustic like CrossFit. There's a time for it. And again, there has never one time ever been a CrossFitter ever gotten to tier 1. Never ever has there been a tier 1 operator compete at the level of CrossFit. And we have to understand that there's a massive, massive difference between your tier 1 guys or your black side SEALs. And then you have your tier 3 or white side SEALs, right? The top of the food chain is not the white side teams. They are not the standard. They are not the standard physically. They're not the standard mentally. They're not the standard emotionally. The standard is the tier 1 side. And we got to stop pretending that when we get at a SQT, we're going to encounter these high performers. You will, but you're about 10 to 20, 30, maybe 30% of them, right? And those 20 to 30% of team guys that are high performers on the white side teams, those guys are all going to go for tier 1 because that's what they're there for. And they will experience all these things at a very high level. And you know what they don't do at tier 1? CrossFit. They don't, right? The Yankees don't do CrossFit. No, not a single Olympic athlete that just competed was doing CrossFit for the Olympics. No runners. Where do you see people doing a tremendous amount of CrossFit? At the CrossFit games, at where it's appropriate, where those CrossFit killers are awesome. I love to watch the CrossFit games. So does my wife. Why? Because those athletes that are competing at that level have done everything they can to prepare. All of it. And you know what they're also not doing? Just doing the WOD every day. That's the dirty little secret of CrossFit. Your highest level of competitors aren't doing daily WODs that are put out. They're developing their energy systems so they can compete at a high level at the games. And I have experience coaching someone at the CrossFit Games, yes. So, what did we not do when we're training somebody for the CrossFit Games? I did not train him like he was a SEAL. His dad was a SEAL. His dad was the longest tenured SEAL that I've ever known, 32 years in the teams. He was a Master Chief for 17 years here, right? That's the son I trained. And you know what we didn't do? CrossFit to train his son. So, if you're doing CrossFit and you are in Spec War, it will be a problem for your job at some point if you do CrossFit at the level that it deserves. That's what I'm saying. Like, CrossFit deserves the intensity that the games demand. There's a totally different demand for SEAL Team 6 operators, Tier 1 guys, Tier 3, it's a totally different animal, guys. And we've got to learn that what gets us there won't keep us there. And this is probably the most perfect example for that statement.